Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is the Bodega Cat Book Club Health Edition, and today we're continuing our reading of Never Be Sick Again by Raymond Francis. Hmm. Okay, let's get started here. I hope you guys are enjoying this book. We're going to be starting a new health book in August of this year, 2025. So check out the intro that I did and register for the book club. And also check out our other book clubs as well. We have the spiritual book club on Mondays, and then financial book club on Thursdays. So you could check those out also. And check out our merch and check out our website. So, okay. That's the extent of my self-promotion there. Okay. All right, here we go. Should you have surgery? Modern surgery certainly is one of the crowning achievements in modern medicine. Surgery works very well to connect physical problems, such as those sustained in accidents, sports injuries, and from birth defects, but surgery does not solve disease problems. Unfortunately, most surgery is performed to address disease problems, wasting resources and permanently damaging the patient. Every part of the human family, sorry, every part of the human body and human family too. Little Freudian slip there. Every part of the human body is important to the functioning of the whole. Removing malfunctioning body parts does not solve the real problem. Surgery should not be performed unless there's absolutely no alternative. And there is almost always an alternative. Most conventional cancer treatments, especially surgery, are directed by the mechanistic belief system described earlier. It's almost like a little side note. It's almost like a Frankensteinian belief system. It's part of the death cult culture, isn't it? Interesting, eh? Cancer is regarded as affecting a specific location or body part that should be removed physically or otherwise poisoned and killed. Completely forgotten is that cancer is a systemic disease affecting the entire body, and that includes emotional and mental as well, not just the physical. Another side note, and that a sounder approach is to restore cancerous cells to normal by addressing their deficiency and toxicity. Cancer patients who properly address their deficiency and toxicity may experience what is termed quote, spontaneous remission. A study by Dr. Harold Foster at the University of British Columbia in 1988 found that virtually every one of 200 cancer patients who had experienced a spontaneous cancer remission had actually done something to improve their cell chemistry. 87% had made major changes to their diet, while others had used nutritional supplements and detoxification programs. Currently, numerous alternative treatments for cancer are available. See Appendix D. Let's see what Appendix D tells us. If it's too long, we'll read it at the end of the book. We're going to read all the appendixes anyways at the end of the book. Oh, that's not too bad. It's a one page. All right, let's read this. So this is Appendix D, Alternative Cancer Treatments. Cancer may be the most feared of all diseases, but like all so-called diseases, it is nothing more than malfunctioning cells. Restore those cells to normal function and the cancer will disappear. Modern medicine's dangerous treatments have failed to put a dent in our cancer epidemic. Meanwhile, alternative methods have been clinically proven to reverse cancer. Probably cheaper too, up to alternative methods. That's why it's been suppressed so much because it's not making money. It's not profitable. Good resources include The Definitive Guide to Cancer by Diamond, Cowden, and Goldberg, published by Future Medicine Publishing. Another resource is Beating Cancer with Nutrition by Patrick Quinlan. For specific suggestions regarding alternative treatment options, consult with People Against Cancer. By becoming a paid member, they will provide information about treatment options through an international physicians network that reviews your medical records and provides specific recommendations. In addition, People Against Cancer provides a wide range of educational materials of interest to people with cancer. For more information, go to www.beyondhealth.com and click on the links page or call 1-800-250-3063. Now, I don't know if any of the links or phone number uh, or any of that work. So I'll have to check it out after the reading, after the book club. And or if any of you, yeah, if it works, I'll put it in the description box below. And if any of you know of any other resources out there that have similar resources, put it in the comment box below and share it with the community. I know I've talked to, in my phone calls with people, I've talked to a lot of people with cancer diagnosis, chronic diseases, terminal cancer, things like that. So hopefully they'll, find back to health, back towards health. A heart bypass operation is another example of unnecessary surgery. In 1992, Norton Hadler, MD, a professor of medicine at the University of North Carolina Medical School, concluded that 95 to 97% of the coronary bypass surgeries done that year were unnecessary. That's very sad because another side note, doctors put themselves through medical school, a lot of debt when they come out, and then, they buy their nice house, swanky house, nice cars, and they have to pay for those too. That's very sad. Very, very sad. Even though patients usually are told that without surgery they will die, which is a myth. In truth, almost all coronary disease is preventable with diet, supplements, and exercise. Likewise, coronary disease is reversible, as pioneers like Nathan Pritikin, more recently Dean Ornish, MD, and others have proven. How much surgery is necessary? Dr. Robert Mendelsohn in Confessions of a Medical Heretic said, "My feeling is that somewhere around 90% of surgery is a waste of time, money, energy, and life." Dr. Mendelsohn cites an independent review of people recommended for surgery. The study found that most of these patients did not need surgery, and half of them needed no medical treatment at all. In another case, a hospital oversight committee reviewed surgically removed tissues. In the year prior to the formation of the committee, the hospital performed 262 appendectomies. After the committee was formed, the number dropped to 62. Wow, that's a big drop. The committee found that most of the tissues being removed were healthy. In March 1997, the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine published a statement saying that only 10% of hysterectomies are justified. In addition to being almost entirely unnecessary, surgery is risky. Possibilities exist for surgical error, which happens quite a bit from what I understand, complications from anesthesia and infection, not to mention the physical, mental, and emotional shock to the body. Yes, the body registers that as shock, as stress. So I had a thought I wanted to say, but I don't remember. So, oh well. Should you take medicine? All drugs have potentially damaging side effects. Because a malfunctioning cell is the definition of disease, and drugs deliberately cause cells to malfunction, drugs cause disease. Drugs are foreign to the body. The mechanism by which drugs work is to alter the body's biochemistry in order to suppress symptoms. Side effects often are worse than the diseases the drugs are used to treat. Perhaps these hazards would be justified if drugs cured disease, but they do not. They control, and suppress symptoms. Even with symptoms suppressed, the true cause of the problem may be growing worse, while the body's natural healing mechanisms are being compromised by the drugs. Billions of dollars are spent in the war against street drugs, but the number of people killed and injured by street drugs is minor compared to prescription drugs. Prescription drugs kill a couple of 100,000 people every year and are leading cause of death, of disease and death. Hmm. Okay, why isn't anybody in jail? That's my question. If your doctor prescribes a drug, consider that it may cause your cells to malfunction and that alternatives exist that are both safe and effective. Even aspirin and other common over-the-counter drugs are dangerous, so find alternatives that work for you. And I would put alternative, like supplements and vitamins, in the drug category as well. Um, and even like essential oils or uh, quote unquote natural blends. Uh, you know, always take it with a grain of salt. But having said that, I would rather take essential oils as a form of quote unquote drug, rather than, you know, Western medicine or pills or supplements or whatever. I don't know. Anyways, always take things with a grain of salt. Books such as Alternative Medicine, A Definitive Guide, edited by the Burton Goldberg Group, and Finding the Right Treatment by Jacqueline Crone, MD, and Francis Taylor, MA, are excellent sources for those wishing to find natural alternatives to toxic prescription drugs. Hmm. I'll check that out. It's very interesting. Unfortunately, when drugs cause disease, we have all been trained not to call it disease. Instead, we use the deceptive term side effects. In 1984, the drug industry attempted to obtain a legal exemption from the liability laws that apply to virtually all manufacturers. Why? Because even the people who make the drugs know they are not safe. All prescription drugs are unavoidably unsafe, argued the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association. Of course, this wording is not used in drug advertisements aimed at the public. Right, the advertisement would just say, and they said it really fast and in very, very low voice. Some of the side effects are diarrhea, uh, death, uh, bleeding, or whatever. It's kind of funny listening to it. It's like, why would anybody take that? I don't know. It kind of goes to show how quote unquote brainwashed we are, isn't it? It goes very, very deep, very deep. A hospital patient receives on average 12 different drugs. Yet, often when as few as three are prescribed, absolutely no one understands all the dangerous interactions between the drugs. Bad enough taken one at a time, combinations of drugs can be particularly toxic. Prescription drugs are notorious for causing many adverse effects in the elderly, including memory loss, depression, confusion, constipation, Parkinson's disease, falls, and urinary incontinence. All too often, a second drug is prescribed to suppress the symptoms caused by the first, then another to suppress the symptoms of the first two, and so forth. Many illnesses of the elderly really are manifestations of adverse drug reactions. A 1991 study in the Journal of the American Medical Association showed that 14% of in-hospital cardiac arrests followed a complication, usually because of medication. Well-known combinations of commonly prescribed drugs can kill, and alert pharmacists have saved many lives. Oh, and alert pharmacists have saved many lives. Little side note here, I had a patient many years ago. She had, I don't remember the exact diagnosis. I think it was lymphoma or I think it was lymphoma. She was on hospice for a few years and then we took her off because she didn't, you know, The criteria for being on hospice is 6 months or less to live. And she lived, I think, over a year after we put her on hospice. So we had to take her off. And she lived many years after that because she got off all the medications and she had a daughter-in-law that took care of her really, really well. So um, I think she lived like 2 or 3 years after we took her off hospice. So, I mean, it kind of gets to show how a little love and no drugs can help you live longer. Think about that. Wow. Up to 29% of all hospital admissions are caused by adverse reactions to drugs, according to a 1995 study in the Archives of Internal Medicine. Many reactions result in liver damage, long hospital stays, permanent disability, and even death. In 1990, an estimated 659,000 Americans aged 60 years and older were hospitalized due to adverse drug reactions. In addition to toxicity, drugs can also cause deficiency by depleting the body of essential nutrients. Diuretics cause excessive loss of potassium and other essential minerals. Anticonvulsants cause loss of vitamin D. Antibiotics and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs and steroid hormones can indirectly cause numerous vitamin and mineral deficiencies by causing digestive damage. Because of the complexity of the human organism, predicting the effects of drugs in each individual, especially with combinations of drugs, is possible. Other facts. A January 1997 study in the Journal of the American Medical Association stated that drug-related morbidity and mortality cost more than $136 billion a year, more than the cost of cardiovascular disease, our leading cause of death. In 1995, Duke University researchers showed that drugs commonly prescribed for stroke patients actually hampered their recovery. Even after a single dose, the negative effects could be long-lasting. A 1994 study in the Journal of the American Medical Association concluded that inappropriate and potentially dangerous drugs are prescribed for 1 in 4 older Americans every year. A 1994 study published in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute and the Journal of the Federation of American Societies for Experimental Biology warned that antihistamine and antidepressant drugs, including Prozac, contain chemicals known to accelerate tumor growth. While these drugs do not cause cancer directly, they can speed its growth. Three classes of common drugs are of special concern. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAIDs. NSAIDs include over-the-counter drugs such as aspirin, ibuprofen, and acetaminophen, and prescription drugs such as indocin, Feldene, naproxen, and others. Use of NSAIDs is a significant national health problem, causing long-term damage to large numbers of people, particularly the elderly, who are the largest users of these drugs. And some people, just a side note, some people take like Tylenol, which is acetaminophen, and ibuprofen, which is Advil and aspirin, like candies, which is very bad, very, very, very bad. According to data published in Hospital Practice in December 1996, up to 200,000 Americans are hospitalized every year for problems caused by NSAIDs, and as many as 20,000 people a year die from the damage. NSAIDs usually are prescribed for a noble purpose to relieve pain, and they are among the most commonly prescribed pharmaceuticals in the world. About 60 million NSAIDs prescriptions are written every year in America, and an estimated 14 million people take these drugs for symptomatic relief of arthritis alone. It's kind of another side note. Boy, I have a lot of side notes today. Um, like over the counter, let's say, for example, ibuprofen, Advil, over the counter, like 200 milligrams, right? You can buy that over the counter without the doctor's prescription. And then the doctor, if you go to the doctor and they prescribe like 800 or 1,000 milligrams of Advil, I feel like that's kind of silly because you can just go over the counter and take four, six, four 200 milligram pills to equal 800 milligrams. That's kind of, I don't know. I always thought that's kind of weird. Anyways, that's my side note. Um, okay, I lost my place there. All right, let's try this paragraph again. NSAIDs usually are prescribed for a noble purpose, to relieve pain, and they're among the most commonly prescribed pharmaceuticals in the world. About 60 million NSAID prescriptions are written every year in America, and an estimated 14 million people take these drugs for symptomatic relief of arthritis alone. These drugs relieve pain, but at a cost. About one-third of chronic NSAID users experience noticeable gastrointestinal discomfort, which is only the tip of the iceberg, indicating that digestive damage is occurring. In most people, I would say digestive damage has already occurred. That's what I propose. In most people, NSAID inflicted damage to the digestive system is asymptomatic, no obvious symptoms to warn of the damage being done. By the time the stomach or gut is in pain from NSAIDs, massive damage has already occurred. And even the lab work, if you take lab work or anything like that, those are already those are the tip of the iceberg too. That means the damage has already been done. Most physicians think it is acceptable for people to take NSAIDs, believing that they cause minimal and acceptable damage. That's another myth or lie. Lie is a pretty strong word. Yeah. I'm trying to be nice here. So I said myth, but it could be a lie. Virtually everyone who takes these dangerous drugs has their health damaged, and the longer they are taken, the worse it becomes. People who take NSAIDs for arthritis for years suffer worse joint damage than those who take nothing. NSAIDs have been linked to kidney failure, cognitive dysfunction, hearing loss, ringing in the ears, macular degeneration, and hormone disruption. Examples include a 1992 study published in the Scandinavian Journal of Rheumatology, long-term NSAID users were hospitalized 6 times more often than non-users. Deaths from gastrointestinal causes occurred twice as often, and half of all patients who died of ulcer-related complications had reported recent use of NSAIDs. A 1996 study in the Archives of Internal Medicine found that patients taking NSAIDs were 4 to 7 times more likely to suffer acute kidney failure. A 1996 study in physiological behavior showed NSAIDs interfere with melatonin production, which is needed for sleep, and sleep is needed to heal, for your body to heal. With a 95, another side note there, with a 75% nighttime reduction. Decreased melatonin production has been associated with sleep disorders as well as promotion of cancer. A 1996 study in Lancet showed that aspirin in any form, such as buffered or coated, causes gastrointestinal bleeding. As few as one aspirin can cause bleeding. NSAIDs cause intestinal bleeding by blocking action of messenger molecules called prostaglandins. Some prostaglandins cause inflammation and pain, and others stimulate healing and repair. NSAIDs block both types. Because the intestinal lining is renewed very rapidly, about every 3 days, blocking the repair process results in a gut that is weak, inflamed, and leaky. What should you do for a headache? Simple acupressure techniques and homeopathic remedies work quite well. What should you do for pain and or inflammation? Eat a whole foods diet, at least 75% raw. Avoid sugar, white flour, hydrogenated oils, junk foods, and colas. Drink plenty of pure water. alkaline water is best because your body illness and disease and cancer cannot survive in alkalinic environment. Avoid meat and dairy, but choose oily fish such as salmon, ocean harvested rather than farmed. Take vitamin C up to bowel tolerance, 2 to 4 grams of quercetin per day, 30 to 60 milligrams of zinc daily, 100 units of beta carotene for several days, and then 25,000 for several weeks, plus vitamin A and vitamin E. Essential fatty acid supplements are also critical. Digestive enzymes help, and especially take 1 to 3 grams of bromelain and papain per day. A number of herbs, as well as homeopathic remedies, are anti-inflammatory. These are excellent alternatives to NSAIDs. Antibiotics. Most of us have been given an antibiotic at one time or another, and this contributes to one of our largest sources of toxins, those generated within our own digestive systems. Antibiotics are designed to kill disease-causing bacteria, but they also kill the friendly bacteria in our digestive systems. If these bacteria are absent or out of balance, a chain of unhealthy events is initiated, including undigested or malabsorbed food. Beneficial intestinal bacteria produce needed vitamins such as B complex vitamins, vitamin B12, and vitamin K. These essential nutrients are no longer produced when the friendly bacteria are displaced, and vitamin deficiency can result. In addition, friendly bacteria prevent undesirable yeasts from proliferating by competing for food and producing biotin to inhibit yeast growth. When antibiotics kill beneficial bacterial and undesirable yeast and bacteria thrive and take over, establishing their own ecosystem. This inhibits the beneficial bacteria from reestablishing themselves. Yeasts also produce numerous immune reactive substances that force the immune system to form antibiotics constantly. This stress may lead to impaired functioning of the immune system to the point of immune suppression or even breakdown. Also, yeasts inhibit magnesium absorption, which can lead to numerous neurological problems, damage gut tissue, and cause leaking gut syndrome. A variety of health problems can result, ranging from chronic fatigue to allergies, arthritis, and other immune dysfunction diseases. A January 1996 article in Internal Medicine World Report stated that in 1991, more than 4 million prescriptions were written in America for antibiotics to treat people for the common cold. This use is inappropriate. Antibiotics have no effect on the common cold. Vast overprescribing of this type fosters the development of antibiotic-resistant bacteria. In May 1996, the World Health Organization, the WHO, issued a report warning that, quote, incurable strains of bacteria are being discovered. Many infectious diseases formerly controllable with antibiotics are reappearing in forms difficult or even impossible to treat. We are standing on the brink of a global crisis in infectious diseases, said Hiroshi Nakajima, MD, WHO's Director General. The report warns that the spread of untreatable infections is threatening to undermine modern advances in healthcare. In many hospitals, antibiotic-resistant staphylococcus infections are epidemic. More and more people die every year from antibiotic-resistant infections acquired in hospitals. The WHO report noted that the quote inappropriate use of antibiotics is to blame both for the increase in drug-resistant microbes and for the weakened immune systems of patients. Either factor is serious. Combined, they are catastrophic. Weakened immune systems play a crucial role in the development of AIDS, autoimmune diseases, asthma, allergies, and a long list of other health problems. Antibiotics represent what may be the single most damaging category of drugs employed by allopathic medicine and, like most drugs, are unnecessary. Only sick people get sick. Prevent infections by eating a good diet and avoiding toxins. Stay away from immune damaging foods like sugar. Take high quality supplements, reduce stress, and get regular exercise. If an infection does occur, natural remedies should be considered before defaulting to the antibiotics that physicians will undoubtedly prescribe. Take lots of, oh, sorry about that. Take lots of vitamins A, C, up to the point where you begin getting excessive gas or diarrhea, then decrease. And E, garlic, herbs like echinacea, or homeopathic remedies. Natural antibiotics like olive leaf extract are also helpful. Hormones. Hormones are critical to health because they are part of the body's self-regulating system. They control gene expression, and as part of the body's vital communication systems, they help balance the body. Hormone chemistry is awesomely complex, and when you begin tampering with it, the effects on the body's system of checks and balances are unknown and potentially catastrophic. Even minute hormone quantities can have profound effect on the body. The human body manufactures only 50 to 100 millionths of a gram per day of thyroid hormone, resulting in a blood concentration of only 1 part per 10 billion. 1 in 10 billion. Yet this minute amount has a major regulatory effect. Supplemental hormones are dangerous, meddling in the unknown, because it is so easy to interfere with the body system of hormonal checks and balances. Prescription hormones, birth control pills, hormone replacement therapy, and steroid hormones are the most common threats, as are steroids found in over-the-counter products such as cortisone ointments and DHEA, dihydroepiandrosterone. Wow, that's a handful. I mean, a mouthful. A handful, a mouthful. Hormones are part of the body's cell to cell communication system, helping the body to regulate. For instance, hormones are used to regulate blood sugar, which normally stays within narrow limits to keep the body, and especially the brain, supplied with the correct amount. If blood sugar is too high, the pancreas secretes insulin, which signals the cells to take up glucose, thus lowering blood sugar and returning to normal. If blood sugar drops too low, the pancreas secretes glucagon, which signals the liver to break down glycogen into glucose to raise blood sugar. In this way, different hormones act in pairs, like a thermostat, turning systems on and off. This chemistry presents a delicate balancing act. All the hormones interact with each other in ways modern science is only beginning to understand. In blood sugar regulation alone, at least 6 hormones are involved. Steroid hormones are being prescribed almost as frequently as antibiotics for allergic reactions, asthma, eczema, arthritis, ulcerative colitis, and for all types of inflammatory and autoimmune diseases. Often, steroids are given to babies and children to alleviate inflammations of all kinds. I was listening to a podcast with Robert Kennedy Jr., and he was saying that now, currently, the vaccine schedule for babies, for kids, it used to be like 10 when he was a child. And then it kind of went up and up and up, and now it's like 92 or 72. And I'm like, my jaw's just dropped. Giving all those vaccines to babies, they're not even kids, they're like babies. They haven't even, their immune system isn't even developed yet, and they're giving them all the, oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. I cannot get over that. Whew, those poor kids. That's why they cry every time you go to the doctors to give them vaccines. They cry their heads off because they don't want it. They know it's not good. Oh, poor babies. Sorry. Got a little sidetracked there. Where am I? Okay. Often steroids are given to babies and children to alleviate inflammations of all kinds. Steroids can cause permanent and devastating damage even after a single dose because the body is thrown out of its natural self-regulatory mode. It sometimes never gets back. Steroids' beneficial effects appear to decline in time, leaving patients in worse condition than before they started. Yeah, and long-term use of steroids have long-term very bad side effects. Like I remember one of them is called the moon face, where your face kind of swells up and you look like the moon, puffy. That's one of them, one of the long-term side effects. Steroids appear to be a quote miracle cure for asthma or arthritis. However, they merely suppress the symptoms of these conditions. They may make people feel better, but this feeling comes at a high price. The medical journals are filled with steroid-inflicted horror stories such as osteoporosis, retarded child growth, and vision loss. The Annals of Internal Medicine in November 1993 reported that after just 4 months of use, oral steroids can cause osteoporosis with an 8% reduction in bone mass. I took one dose of oral steroids many years ago and I threw the rest away because I didn't like the way it made me feel. I never took it again. Never, ever, ever. Wow. The British Medical Journal in August 1994 reported that extensive eye damage and visual loss can be caused by using topical over-the-counter 1% hydrocortisone ointment for 2 weeks. Lancet has reported that after only 6 weeks of use, inhaled steroids prescribed for asthma retard growth in children. Alternative approaches to steroids include, for example, vitamin C and quercetin. These two natural anti-inflammatories accomplish similar results, but without the side effects. Whether one takes steroid orally, inhales them, or rubs them on the skin doesn't matter. Damage can be caused quickly and irreversibly. Rubbing a little cortisone ointment on the skin affects the chemistry of the entire body. Steroids taken during pregnancy can cause a child to suffer from autism and impaired cognitive performance. Topical and inhaled steroids can cause glaucoma and cataracts. Other reported problems include fluid retention, thinning skin. Thinning skin is a very common one for steroids. Slowness in healing, headaches, muscle weakness, immune suppression, angina or angina, some people pronounce it that way, hair loss, and depression. Over-the-counter hormones such as melatonin and DHEA are special problems because they are so easy to obtain. I took a melatonin pill once to sleep. I didn't like the way it affected me. I threw it away. I threw the whole bottle away. And that was over the counter. I don't remember the dosage. But I woke up kind of weird and groggy and kind of, oh, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Daily doses of 50 milligrams of DEHA have been linked to acne, oily skin, excessive hair growth, facial hair growth in women, and mood changes such as irritability and aggressiveness. DHEA is a steroid hormone with a molecular structure quite similar to cortisone. Cortisone, too, was once thought to be a wonder drug until we found it was maiming and killing people. In a 1997 study conducted at Northwestern University, 16 rats fed DHEA for 18 months experienced color changes in their liver from pink to brown. 14 developed liver cancer. Those poor rats. Those poor rats and poor monkeys and poor animals, they're being used for scientific study. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm having a moment here. Um, Neurologists and other sleep specialists have warned about against taking melatonin supplements. In September 1996, the National Institutes of Health sponsored a meeting in Bethesda, Maryland, where researchers reported that we do not have sufficient knowledge about how melatonin works to predict all its potential adverse effects, excuse me, especially at the high doses in over-the-counter preparations. Well, that's a very disturbing sentence, especially at the high doses in over-the-counter preparations. So they're deliberately putting high doses in over-the-counter preparations that you do not need a medical doctor's prescription that anybody can take. And a lot of people take over-the-counter pills like candy, just popping in like candy. And they take it with wine. Say, oh, that's a bad combination. Bad, bad, bad combination. The data showed melatonin could cause nausea, headaches, nightmares, worsening of existing depression, or a drop in body temperature, which increases the risk of developing viral infections. Richard J. Wortman, MD, professor of neuroscience and director of the Clinical Research Center at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, described widespread use of over-the-counter melatonin as, quote, scary. The original experiments with mice suggesting that melatonin prolonged life, which is why sleep is so important. When you sleep, your body heals, and when your body heals, you live longer. That's just part of the one of the side effects, if you want to call it side effects. What's the other word for it? I don't know. The word escapes my mind right now. Anyways, the original experiments with mice suggesting that melatonin prolonged life used genetically selected mice that were unable to produce melatonin. When given some melatonin, they did measurably better than having none. However, repeated experiments with normal mice resulted in shortened lifespan because they developed tumors of the reproductive tract. Oh, those poor mice. Of course, the public hears only of the quote benefits. Taking hormones on a regular basis, such as the numerous women on birth control pills and others on hormone replacement therapy, HRT, imbalances the hormone system. Millions of women are put on HRT, presumably to help prevent heart attack and osteoporosis. Little reliable evidence exists that HRT prevents either. In fact, evidence shows that it promotes these conditions. Want to prevent hormone disruption in your body? Avoiding certain toxins is critical. More than 50 different chemicals are known to disrupt the normal communication jobs of hormones, including pesticides, PCBs, and dioxins. Fat, fat, what? Phthalates? I don't know how to pronounce that. I have seen that word before. I just don't know how to pronounce it. Leached from PVC and other plastics. Ah, okay. And bisphenol A from polycarbonate water bottles and the plastics used to coat the interior of cans used to contain food. Dietary considerations are important because most of our exposure to these hormone disrupting chemicals comes from eating meat and dairy products. And it is my understanding that meat and maybe dairy, but I'm not sure, meat for sure, and sugar and white flour are acidic, which makes you sick, which makes your body sick. You want to eat alkaline foods, which makes your body healthy. You know, when you come down to it, it's quite simple, really. I think the medical industry kind of makes it complicated. But if you look at nature, nature is very simple. Mother Nature is simple, you know? If you can just kind of observe how nature works, how nature grows, how nature recycles, it's just a very simple cycle of life. And as long as we mimic that, we should be all right. All right, sorry about that. Another little rabbit hole. Side note, let's try that sentence again. Dietary considerations are important because most of our exposure to these hormone disruption hormone disrupting chemicals comes from eating meat and dairy products. Sugar and white flour disrupt hormone balances, so minimize consumption. Rest and exercise help balance hormone levels. Moderate exercise doubles or even quadruples beneficial growth hormone levels. Most critically, our society must stop such constant and widespread use of hormone drugs. As John Mills, MD, Chief of Infectious Diseases at San Francisco General Hospital, said, steroid hormones are, quote, probably the most sleazy of modern day medications. The most sleazy. That's a funny word he used. All right. Let's stop there for now. And I hope you enjoyed that. And we'll continue our reading next time with part 4. In the meantime, check out our website, check out our book clubs, check out our merch. Um, Everything's on there on the description box. And leave your comments. I like to know what you're thinking. Uh, any ideas to help me make my book club better? Anything like that. I'd be very interested to hearing from you. In the meantime, you guys all have a great day and stay cool. It's going to be a hot summer. Bye bye.